Welcome, nerdies. English Dave here with my co-host Eli. What's up, Eli?
I'm just happy to be back, Dave. Mando's back. Life is good, other than some other things happening externally.
Mando is back, and we are back. Eli, it's like we're here, season 2 already. I feel
it kind of crept up on us,
right?
I think there's an election going on. There's other stuff. The important stuff. Mando's back. You put that at the forefront.
Mando is back. Yes, welcome to a Nerdy Bunch presentation of This Is the Way, a Mando podcast, where we talk weekly about each new episode of The Mandalorian. This week, we're looking at Chapter 9. Yeah, I like the way they put that in the title, by the way. That's a continuation of the story.
Yeah, I noticed that immediately, and I was like, okay.
Exactly.
I just like the vibe. Like, we're jumping right back into it.
But it's kind of like the movies, right? Because the movies are chapters, right? It's
exactly.
Chapters, so it's the same thing. The Marshal, titled The Marshal. We will find out who the Marshal in the title is later on in the episode. The synopsis is as follows. The Mandalorian is drawn to the Outer Rim in search of others of his kind. This does, in a way, it's a standalone episode, but also in another way, it continues right off from previous season. This episode was written and directed by Jon Favreau. Fun fact, Eli, this is Jon Favreau's directorial debut on The Mandalorian.
Did you notice a differentiation in style and choices made? I mean, I think there was one very, very notable one. I don't know that that's necessarily something that Favreau is known for or anyone, but I like what they did, and I think we're going to talk about that shortly.
Okay. Oh, we're talking about the IMAX thing?
Yeah, the aspect ratio, the change in
the aspect ratio, yes.
Which I didn't even notice until it went back to 21.
Yes, I was going to say yes. At the end when he's walking in the sunset and then it goes back slowly. I was like, oh, wait.
I was like, something has happened here. And you went to film school. We went to film school together. So, we can imagine and understand why they did that, why they made that choice to go to the Krayt Dragon fight at the end. But maybe we can touch on that a little later.
Yeah, no, I mean, and also, if for those of you who were blessed enough, I don't know who that is, to watch it in IMAX, that aspect ratio switches too. It's perfect fit for IMAX. That would be glorious to just see that. And one thing I noticed this episode, instantly, you see the budget has gone up. Definitely. From season 1. I felt like, I don't know, like, it was harder for me to see that they were filming it with that really cool indoor digital screen backdrop thing that they have.
The Unreal Engine,
yes.
I know the Unreal Engine's part of it. What do you call the whole?
They have a name for it, but I forget the name for it. Their own personal name for the actual environment. They have a Disney name for it. Anyway, Let's get back to the show. Mando. The episode starts off with Mando meeting a character called Gor Koresh. Fun fact, that's voiced and played by John Leguizamo in a cameo role. Did you know that, Eli?
I was wondering who. It sounded familiar. Could not put a name to it, and I love that he's in it. That's awesome.
Instantly, what I love about the opening sequence is, one, it reminds us how awesome the score is in this show. The score is absolutely fantastic. Ludwig Göransson continues to just marvel me with the score, because it feels like it still feels Western, but there's like a modern contemporary feel to it at the same time, which I kind of like. I love when he's just walking down that seedy environment with Baby Yoda, but you never feel fear for him. You feel fear for where he's going to, or who he's going to, in a sense. What did it feel like to see Mando again?
Well, it was sort of the establishment of, it's always in your face that this is a Western. You're watching a space Western, and that's true to its roots. But to see Mando again, the way it's presented in this seedy environment, just like you said, the foreboding of that environment was like, okay, it's about to get cracking. What's going to go down? And Mando is going to be the one cracking skulls. So, the first scene did not disappoint in that sense. I mean, we saw it in the trailer a bit. So you kind of, I know that I expected it to an extent as soon as he walked into the arena. But, I mean, this show, I mean, you can have certain expectations. You don't need huge plot twists. You don't need someone to be someone else's father to be fully engaged and want to know what's happening next, because you have the long thread. But then you just have all these intimate moments going into all these interesting locations. And it's always going to end with a really well choreographed fight scene and some badass Mandalorian violence.
Of course, of course. I mean, when you try and betray a Mandalorian, this series has shown us, don't try and betray a Mandalorian. It's never gonna end. Especially our Mando. Every time someone's tried to betray him, it turns out bad for them. He always knows what he's betting on, and he just bets on himself. And in this case, it once again wins for him, not so much for Gul Koresh, who, before being left for dead, lets Mando know that there is another Mandalorian on Tatooine.
Oh.
And Mando says to him, "I won't kill you," but he does leave him for dead. So
as soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh, that guy's gonna die for sure."
Right. You instantly know. It's like
classic. You gotta really thoroughly negotiate these terms. If movies have taught us anything, when you make these terms, they need to be down to the minute detail. There needs to be fine print involved.
It's like, you'll make sure I stay alive, right?
Right. I'm going to live like into the next days.
Right. Also, he had told him about a place called Mos Pelgo, which Mando hasn't heard about, but he does know someone on Tatooine. Cut to an old friend, Peli Motto, which I was so excited to see, played by Amy Sedaris. I'm always glad to see her. And she was glad. I loved seeing her excitement for seeing Mando and the child, or Baby Yoda as we've started calling him. What I also like is we see a character growth here, because her first inclination is when the mechs go to fix the ship, she's like, "Get away from him, he doesn't like you." And he's like, "Oh no, it's fine," because he's changed. He doesn't hate droids so much anymore. Right. After IG made that sacrifice, Mando's a different person. Yeah, and it was great revisiting her. Have you heard of this location before, Mos Pelgo?
I can't remember ever being brought up, and so I was thrown for a loop, and I was like, okay, something new in Tatooine. It was just, it seemed innovative, and I was like, all right, let's go. We're not going back to Jabba's Hut. We're not going to Mos Eisley.
But I like the little bit of history we get there, saying that it doesn't exist because it was wiped out after the Death Star was destroyed. Right. And it's one of those things where it's like we never think of these ramifications. Yes, the second Death Star is destroyed, yes, but now a power vacuum is created, which we find out later on in the episode. But I like that, we get little tidbits of that and realizing that, oh shit, yeah, there was a big war.
Well, I think one of the strongest things about The Mandalorian is that it's a central meeting point for all of the Star Wars content. I don't know if there's a single piece of content that's widely watched, from the animated series, prequels, the original sequels, that don't touch even in some point. So even like the astromechs that go work on the ship, those are from the prequels, right? And like so often people want to dismiss that, and you know how I feel, but I'm not going to go prequel tangent. But again, it's this beautiful meeting point, and then hopefully we see some things from Clone Wars, Rebels that create this middle point. But I think that's why it's partially so accessible both to new viewers who are just obsessed with Baby Yoda, and to people who maybe like the lore a little bit more. And like that scene in particular kind of shows it, because it is that meeting point.
I agree. And like I said earlier, it's seeing on the map even, and seeing that the map goes to the other side, another side of the planet. For me, it was exciting to see more of Tatooine, a planet that we've been to many, many times. It's great to see something else that we've not seen yet.
And like you talked about the political ramifications of it's not like the Death Star got destroyed and there's like, oh yeah, it's all good now. Like there's going to be huge political fallout from that. And I like how that's addressed head on, is actually really the centerpiece of what is pushing the story, at least from the antagonist point.
Even Peli Motto says that she's scared to leave where she is, since the Death Star has fallen, because now there's more raiders and things like that out there. On his way to Mos Pelgo, Mando ends up getting some help from some Tusken raiders. He ends up at the town, which I liked because it was almost like a Western when the new person arrives at the quiet old town.
It was to a T.
Right.
To a T. I mean, it was almost, actually, as much as like I love that this show is saying, is being true to its Western roots. It's I like that they're leaning into it, but sometimes like, all right, guys, like, I know this is a space Western. You told me earlier. You told me 2 scenes ago. But that was cool because it was so like dusty old town, walking through the middle, people like kind of looking out from their,
the stranger.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the way, the way when we see Timothy Oliphant and uh, just that introduction,
Hmm.
it feels familiar enough, like both in the Star Wars and Western sense, that like it's exciting. And I don't know. So as much as I kind of want to hate on it, was also awesome. So I'm like, it's like a weird balance. I want to like be interestingly critical, but
Yeah.
I'm also like fanboy.
Well, let's
So
talk about Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Oliphant. We had known that he was cast in the show, but what I also like that is that when you first see him, he is dressed in the full Boba Fett armor, and you instantly recognize that it's Boba Fett. If you're a fan, at least, you know that armor, that green, that look. But what I like is that you see that it doesn't quite fit the person who's wearing it.
and oddly, I didn't realize how thin Timothy Oliphant
Yes.
was.
Yeah.
I was, but also maybe it was deceptive because of that armor.
Hmm.
But yeah, well, I remember seeing it. I looked over to Marley. I was like, "That's Boba Fett's armor. That's Boba Fett's armor." And she was like, "I don't know who Boba Fett is." And I was like, "This is a big deal. This is a big deal right now."
Leave.
Yeah.
How dare you?
And so for people who are just jumping into, jumping into the Mandalorian, may not be Star Wars fans before this, and I think there are quite a lot of people actually
I would
who
say that.
are. I still thought they introduced him in an epic enough way, and have, just like you said, not having the armor fit quite right. You're like, something is off with
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
situation, and it's about to get weird. But he
Hmm.
also does look like a badass.
Hmm. But I also think, like you said, for those who jumped onto things with the Mandalorian and don't have the greater lore, you see the importance because from their point of view, it's like, oh snap, it's another Mandalorian.
Right.
You know, and then when the helmet
Right.
comes off, you're like, whoa, that can't be Mandalorian because we know the rules.
Right, the
Right.
rules are established. So
Right.
yeah, that's and so as soon as he takes off his helmet, or even as he goes to it, because he goes, "Let's have a drink," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Just grab a drink." He's gonna take his helmet off.
Right.
There's some nonsense happening. So and I do love that. And so it's like,
Yeah.
again, it's just another brilliant way to allow the lore to, like, for all us fanboys to get all up in our feels, but then to be very clear, to the new fan, they don't miss anything in the story.
Mm-hmm. And instantly, what I like is that Cobb isn't set up as an antagonist right away. Because he
Right.
notices things about Mando. He's like, he instantly knows not to fight him because he notices that he's a Mandalorian. Only one of us is going to walk out of here. But then he also notices that, oh, you've got the kid over there, so it means you're not here to attack me. So that I like that. Even though Mando kind of demands to get the arm off him, there's almost that confrontation. Cobb isn't a confrontational person. Like you said, it offers him a drink straight away. He knows he's not an idiot. He knows
he's clearly a protective,
Yes.
person, which you learn later on. But you sort of have these two similar characters in the sense of they're protective in
Mhm.
nature. And I actually, just given Timothy Oliphant's past characters, past roles, a lot of, when you see him, I think, oh, he's probably gonna be a bad guy. When he got cast, I was like, hey, he's probably gonna be a bad guy.
I thought so too. I thought some like rival bounty hunter or something like that when he was initially cast. But before they actually get to do a standoff, the ground rumbles, which signifies the arrival of, we later find out, which is a crate dragon. Fun fact, we have seen the bones of a crate dragon in previous Star Wars movies. And if I'm correct, this is the first time we've actually seen a crate dragon. Have you seen one before outside? Maybe an animation.
I
don't
don't
know.
think so. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the animated series. I'm like, do we see one in the Clone Wars? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't think so. But Cobb offers a plan to Mando and says, if you help me get rid of this crate dragon, I'll give you your armor back. And so they decide to go on speeder to find the location of the dragon. Did you notice the fun fact of the speeder that Cobb was riding?
I was trying to determine. I was like, is that one of Anakin's?
It looks like the engine. I don't know if it's Anakin's, but it looks like a pod racer
But
engine.
it's
like
clearly
Anakin's.
a pod racer engine. And what I was trying to, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not Anakin's, but I was like, was it like Sebulba's or something? I don't know. It like looked familiar.
It's
I
on
wonder in
Tatooine.
the design. Yeah.
You never know. People like to repurpose things in the Star Wars universe,
Right.
especially machines.
But
Clearly,
again,
that was an Easter egg.
It's threaded together. There's just those little nuggets, like, and it's great because like the team is not missing opportunities to give nods to fans, to like real fans.
Mm-hmm. And during their trip, Cobb tells Mando the story of what happened to the town, and how he came upon the armor. Again, I like to see, we saw the visual of, the party of the Death Star's destroyed. Yeah, but instantly, power vacuum, they're raided. And again, we get to see the Jawas again. And now here's a bit of mystery. How did the armor get to the Jawa's hands? They set us up so much by thinking that he gets it straight from Boba.
Right,
nope.
right. But it would make sense. Well, it could be as simple as the Jawas, well, if it went into the Sarlacc pit, how are they getting it out of there? Unless Sarlacc puked it up. I don't know.
Exactly. We don't. I mean, they know what they're doing, the bastards. I have a theory at the very, very, very end, and I'll talk to you about that later. They almost get attacked by some creatures called Massives. Have we seen these creatures, like dog-like creatures, before, owned by the Tuskens?
I can't remember seeing them.
Yeah,
I truly can't, and maybe that makes me a bad fan.
Right.
But I don't care. I liked it. It gives so Tusken Raiders, obviously, you don't want to get caught alone out in the desert with Tusken Raiders around. That's been well established. But in some ways, they almost seem a little bit limited as far as their ability, and I thought this episode really gave them a lot more depth. Mm-hmm. And particularly with these creatures, it makes them even more fearsome and makes this very clear and more scary that you don't want to get caught with these dudes.
And you and I have spoken before about, in previous podcasts, season 1, check it out if you haven't, about how we love what this show is doing with the Tuskens. If you kind of look at them as an allegory for Native Americans or natives of a location, and how initially they're portrayed as savages and they're just the enemy, and then now this show's giving them more nuance. That they're not just this like savage enemy that attack and do this crazy stuff to people. And I really appreciate that this show keeps going there. Even little things like Mando understanding and being able to speak Tusken, it saves them.
Yeah, and I love that.
You start learning that from season 1 to now, he's learned that working as a team is beneficial. He's not so much a lone-minded person anymore. He's the one that pushes them to work together. And I love seeing that. Cobb, though, is now almost the place of the new person now, and he rejects. I love the scene where he rejects the drink from them. And again,
about that drink, Star Wars is doing an amazing job of like bringing in the weird culinary presentations you would see in space, mm-hmm. like with the blue milk, and then like you see what the Tusken Raiders are drinking. That's exactly what you would expect some funky, creatures like that to drink.
Of course.
And you look at it like, ooh, I would not. Not do a Cobb.
It's
like,
just
nah,
different.
Diss me with that.
But they also want help, and they also want to destroy the dragon. And they find out that the dragon actually, I didn't pay attention to this the first time I watched it. I noticed the second time. So apparently the dragon had killed and eaten a Sarlacc and then taken its pit to reside as its home.
Yeah.
Great backstory.
Yeah. That just raises this. We're just raising the stakes here, raising the stakes.
Like, oh shit. When you see one of the Tusken trying to lure out the Sarlacc to eat the bantha, and it eats the Tusken instead. Like,
right. But you know what? That's an allusion to it. That alludes to the prequels. There's always a bigger fish.
There always
there's always a bigger fish.
Right.
So,
And I think Jon Favreau in this moment did a good job of maintaining that there are comedic elements to Star Wars. It doesn't take itself too seriously, because I laughed at that moment. I thought it was hilarious. There's a nice bit of levity. They realize that this dragon is a lot bigger than they thought, which means they need a lot more help, and they have to convince the town. And I like how they slowly convince the town. They're like, yeah, this thing will eat our children and kill everyone. Yeah, let's stop it. And we need help from the Tuskens. What?
Okay, no, never mind. But hey, they work together, and they do a good job. They do a good job together.
They head to the dragon cave, and they realize that they have a plan to set up some explosives that will destroy the underbelly of the dragon. But when it comes go time, when they get their attention, it's not as much attention as they need, and the dragon starts to retreat. I love the moment where the dragon sprays acid on everyone. You just like,
I felt bad because it seemed like their plan was like to not have a lot of casualties.
Yes.
Because people were quick to sign up. Okay, let's go.
Let's do it.
This beast. And they're getting picked off. Like a lot of them, Tusken and Tatooinis alike. And I was feeling rather bad at this point. I was like, this is not one, it's not going well, and two, like, what was the point of them even going out? Because their whole village is about to be down to
Right?
population like 3.
Like, you're saving for what? Like, what is the purpose of this? And then when they do use the detonator, it does absolutely nothing to the dragon. All it does is piss it off even more, and it comes out, and it's even like it's the size of the mountain, and it's just spraying on everybody. I was just like,
And
holy
it can
shit.
like burst through the mountain. Like, it just
Right?
goes to show how big. Like, it's one thing to go into the sand and come up. It goes through sheer rock, mountainous rock. This thing is a beast.
I remember seeing that moment and then saying to my wife, "This is the epic climax to a massive 300 million blockbuster movie." You know,
Yeah.
and this is episode 1 of season
And
2.
granted, they're going to put a lot of money in episode 1.
Of course.
The next episodes are not going to be this big because you want to hook viewers immediately. But still, the scale at which they've gone, like you said at the beginning, Dave, is that, I mean, I can't imagine how much this episode cost. The CG for this alone.
This is TV.
crazy.
Even if we never go back to this scale again for this season, the fact that we went there for just on a TV episode, you know,
Right.
and even the moment where he and Cobb, because you know he has a new plan to distract the dragon, he and Cobb would start flying over the dragon. That looked great. You know, sometimes flying can look wonky.
Mhm.
You know, in TV shows, you can see the how fake it looks, but that looked great with them flying. And I love the moment where Mando hits Cobb's jetpack, so he goes flying. Again, a little Easter egg there, reminiscent of what Han Solo accidentally does to Boba Fett, which caused him to fall in the Sarlacc pit in the first place. That malfunctioning jetpack just needs a little knock, boom.
Well, you can imagine, you know, a jetpack, especially with the power that they're working in here.
This is
little
true.
can go wrong a long way.
This is very, very true. Okay, so when Mando makes the sacrifice, right, you know what his plan is going to be. Once it clicks with you, you know that he's going to allow himself to be eaten. Here's my thing, though. He says to Cobb, take care of the child. So it's like he instantly thinks in that moment that if I die, Cobb should take care of the child. You know, that makes me think of his relationship with Cobb and makes me realize outside of it being Timothy Oliphant, then that relationship's going to continue to grow further, you know.
Well, that's what I hope. And it made me think two things. Either it meant like take care of the child while I'm temporarily gone, which means Mando's the swaggiest dude of all time. But I actually had a feeling, I have a feeling that Mando is just brave to the point of kind of being reckless.
Yes.
But two, does understand that like he's not a Jedi. Is he maybe one of the baddest Mandalorians ever exists? Like probably. But he isn't a Jedi, and I do think he's aware that like this could all go wrong very quickly.
I can die.
And he's a good judge of character because, as we can see, Cobb is a good dude.
He is. He is a good dude. But
And
Mando
hope that
does.
he returns.
I'm pretty sure he will. Mando does indeed survive, blows up the dragon from the inside, which makes the Tuscans very happy because now they have meat for months, and if not years.
That's why I was like, look at that meat. Like, that's a lot of meat.
Food.
It looked pretty. It was like red. It looked pretty tender.
Right. Even Mando takes a piece, which I liked.
I was ready. I was like, toss them this way.
But did you know also, it's a fun fact, those great dragons, they have a pearl inside of them, which is worth a lot. Very valuable. You even see at the end, one of them finds a pearl. I was very excited. I didn't know about this until I did further research. I didn't know it was a thing. I was like, oh, interesting.
It's interesting. It reminds me of these books by Brandon Sanderson called The Stormlight Archives. There's these big monsters that have pearls inside of them. I wonder if that's borrowed.
Oh, maybe it is.
Or maybe that's like a trope. I don't know.
No. Oh, maybe it is a trope. That's true. Cobb returns the Mandalorian arbor as he promised, and Mando sets off into the sunsets, which I did like again. The twin sons of Tatooine.
I mean, how can you see the twin sons and not just with a little nerd shiver?
Right, get excited. But then, for more excitement, we get a shadowy figure who's watching Mando as he drives away, and it's like dun dun dun. For those of you who are nerds, you recognize that figure as actor. What's his name? Tamari Morrison, who is
if you saw that and you didn't recognize him, and you call yourself a Star Wars fan.
Then you may have to reassess that.
So for those who don't know, it's the same actor who played Jango Fett, who is the original clone, who's what the clone army was. He was cloned after him, and also theoretically because he had a son, Boba, which was just a clone. When Boba would grow up, probably looks like that actor.
And fun fact, Boba is not a Mandalorian. He has Mandalorian armor. However, here's another theory I have. What if, Eli, that it's not Boba and it's one of the clones?
So you mentioned this earlier this week. You sent me this, and I was like, because, well, for those who follow the Clone Wars and the Clone Wars and Rebels, there's a very, very interesting clone on there who has appeared a lot and is a very, very impactful character. And that would be, to me, so like for you, Dave, for me, he's way more important than Boba Fett is to me.
Yes.
Way more important.
Yes. I agree.
To the larger storyline,
to
the canon.
You and I have spoken about this again before in terms of Boba Fett and our feelings towards Boba as a character. That Boba is a character that we got, fans, when I say we, I'm talking about the collective fans, got excited for because of the potential of the character and the look of the character, because Boba never gets to do anything in the original. So everything we love about Boba was imagined and what we hoped would be. And then even when The Mandalorian was announced, we all thought The Mandalorian was going to be about Boba, and then we realized it's a different character. And then so for me personally, I feel like Mando has filled in a lot of the things that I wanted in Boba.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, he's basically an unstoppable person in Mandalorian armor who's not even a Mandalorian. I mean, he basically fills that entire role. And so after that, I mean, you look at Boba's body of work, and it's not terribly impressive. Look at Jango. Jango Fett fended off Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi defeated Anakin, probably the most powerful Jedi and probably best swordsman who ever walked the Star Wars universe.
This is true.
So who's really amazing? Jango is amazing. We have Mando is amazing.
We have the Rexes.
The Rexes. But where's Boba in this? I'm sorry. Boba is like Boba is very cool. I'm not trying to take that away from people who grew up with the originals, and I can totally see why they'd be so into it. But if your theory is correct, Dave, I'm into it. I'm 100% into it. But it seems like they're setting up for Boba.
I just think, a part of me believes that they're setting us up for Boba, for us to think Boba, and for it not to be Boba. And also because we know for a fact that Rosario Dawson has been cast as Ahsoka. And Ahsoka, she has huge ties.
Shit when that happens. It's going to be amazing.
Right? So excited. I can't wait for that. But she has a lot of her narrative. If you watch Clone Wars and Rebels, her narrative is also tied to the clones, especially Captain Rex. And so I feel like bringing one of the clones is an easy way to bring her into the narrative. I feel like right now, how does Boba connect to the story? Without feeling like fan service. Because I trust the creators of the show. Completely trust them.
I mean, that's, there's always been the theory that he crawled out, he escaped the Sarlacc pit.
Somehow.
And maybe that's more storylines that you can build in, but like ultimately, what's more interesting? The story of the clones who weren't, who didn't turn, or sort of contrived thing for Boba Fett. I don't know.
Well, I mean, again, doesn't mean that I won't like a Boba Fett story. I think the writers are clever enough to make me love Boba, but I think for me, it's just harder work for them, because you've got to make Boba stand out and make me love him outside of why I now love Mando. He can't just be another cool guy in Mandalorian armor.
I also don't see Boba and Mando being able to exist in the same world. Just from a personality standpoint, one of them is gonna kill each other. So why would you bring back Boba just to kill him again?
I mean, again, I guess the conflict might be interesting. Anyway, we shall find out. Here's some fun facts. Cobb isn't a new character. Cobb was first appeared in the Star Wars Aftermath series written by Chuck Wendig. He was also a lawman in the same kind of way, and did use Boba Fett's armor in the same way and protect the town. We already mentioned about crate dragons. It was first seen in The New Hope in one of the early scenes when I think it's C-3PO is walking the desert. You see a crate dragon skeleton. Even though the skeleton seems smaller in that scale, but that's one of the first time.
Yeah, well, could have been a baby. Could have been a
true. I just had a vision of Raised by Wolves, but that's a whole nother sci-fi.
It was so much like that. Check out our other podcast that I have not yet made.
Right. Another very, very, very big, huge cameo. I don't know if you noticed. There was an R5, the original mech astromech that Luke purchased that kind of malfunctioned.
Mm-hmm.
We see that in this episode. And this is more fan theory. The opening sequence when Mando's walking through the almost like alleyway, we see some graffiti around and some rebel iconography, and some people are thinking Sabine Wren for Rebel fans, and some people are thinking
like her work.
It does look like her work, and some fans think we saw her the actor Sasha Banks playing a character in the trailer, and some people think that she's playing Sabine Wren, which is a Rebels character. Very interesting. She is from Mandalore. Dun, dun, dun.
She's like the true Mandalorian. She is who the Darksaber.
Yes, she had it last.
Belongs to, really, yes. As far as lineage.
Did you notice also this was the longest episode so far?
That's the first thing I noticed, and it made me wonder. So are these going to be longer episodes? Because they did feel very contained, episodic, and sort of, while not linear entirely, but kind of winding. So I'm hoping that they're a little longer. I like them a little longer. I don't know if I need an hour, a 40-minute episode. What was this, 53 minutes? 50?
Yeah, 53 minutes, something like that.
So I could do 40, 45. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do 2-hour episodes, but I do like a lot better than like the 28, 33 minutes.
Yes.
Another 12, 15 minutes. That works for me.
And it didn't feel like it was dragged out either.
No.
It felt just about right, and I enjoyed it. I had a great time with it. Looking forward to the next episode. What did you nerdies think? Let us know. Find us on social media at The Nerdy Bunch. Let us know your thoughts on each week's episode, and we'll try and read them out on our podcast. Thank you, Eli, as always.
Great to be here.
My name is English Dave. This is the Way Amanda podcast. And as always, keep it nerdy.